Hello, everyone. How you guys doing? Hello. Yes, for Elevate. Yes, thank you. It was a pleasure yesterday. All right, guys. How you all doing today? Today we will be talking about power. It is episode 5. Yes, to be precise. Yes, episode 5. We're going to be talking power, and I'm waiting on my panelists at this time to join us. Let me see if they are here already. Oh, they haven't sent their request yet, but we'll wait for them. Where is Yetunde? And where is Barrister Bisiriyu? Where are you guys? I haven't seen your request yet. Oh, aha! All right. Oh, they are here. Huh. My partners in crime. Welcome. Welcome.
Sorry,
How are you?
my battery is low, so I'm trying to actually use my my power bank to charge it because the cord for my thing is not long enough. But anyway, so
Let charge it to you, please. Do.
I'm charging it now. It's okay.
Okay.
It's still. I still have some thing on it. So.
I have good news, and the good news is that we are going to cut our talk to an hour.
Okay.
Every Sunday now.
Good.
For some reasons beyond our control at this time, it is going to be cut down to an hour because we've done some reviews and we see that in order to engage more people, we think that shortening it to an hour, impart as much knowledge as we can impart to explain Renewed Hope 2023, be more effective. Before we move forward, let me ask, how are you guys doing?
Great. It's been a rainy Sunday, but good. How is everybody?
How about you?
Yeah, same here. It's been good. I had to go get some gifts for the kids for Christmas, so I had to run along and get back.
Me too, I'm a kid. I need Christmas gifts. I'm somebody's kid, though. I need Christmas gifts too.
No wahala. We'll find a way to send it to you through Amazon delivery.
Well, for me, I'm actually on vacation, but I'm still doing this. We still have to do it. The show has to go on. Maybe that's why the background is different. I'm on vacation at this time, but
it looks.
Thank you. But without further ado, let us go to the business of the day.
Yes.
I am Ayodeji Yusuf Bakare. I am the host of the Pitch the Series program as we dissect Ashwaju's Shettima's 2023 manifesto called Renewed Hope. And this series, what we do in this particular series is to explain the manifesto everything in the manifesto, because it's 80 pages.
Yes.
And being 80 pages, it may be challenging for people to read it, due to time constraints, being busy, and all of that. But we here would explain it to the best of our abilities based on the information that we have. So today is going to be on power, and we do not have a guest speaker, but I am a specialist, or I'll say an expert in power, in energy, oil and gas. That's one of the hats that I wear. And you guys should bear with me today because I may be leading the conversation and I may be talking. So just bear with me. But however, Yetunde is always going to talk because at times it's like she knows it all. I always tell her that it's like she knows it all. So we'll begin to talk about funding, financing, and agreements, because there is something that you guys might take from here today which might open your eyes as regards the kind of draconian agreements that the Nigerian government of then signed with private investors, and how that will pin us down for the next 25 years. And what the Buhari administration maybe had done by making Fashola, former governor of Lagos State, the minister for works and housing and all of that. Like, it was like, why did Fashola get into the ministry of, that's in charge of power? Why was he that? Why was he that? So there's some explanations to that. There's a method to Buhari's madness. So let us go straight to the point. Guys, remember, you ask questions, but remember it's going to be an hour, straight to the point, and we move on. Now, we do it this way. Where were we? Where are we? And where are we going to? So where were we is the current situation we were a couple of years back, up until I would say maybe 2018, 2019, before the Buhari Presidential Power Initiative. That was signed in 2018, 2019 with Siemens. It was formerly called the Rural Electrification Project MAP. That was what it was called previously. And where are we now? The progress we are making with that Presidential Power Initiative and what the Ashwaju manifesto says, or what is going to do with power. Now, going straight to the point. Nigeria currently has a total installed capacity of 13,000 megawatts, 13,500 megawatts approximately. Guys, when you hear this, they're talking about generation. So you have three parts of electricity. Electricity is broken down in Nigeria. You have the generation, you have the transmission.
Pin that, please.
And you're okay.
So for the purpose of people that want to be able to open it or find something there to ask question about, that's the...
Yes. All right. That's for the manifesto. Thank you very much. So you have the generation, you have the transmission, and you have the distribution. So there was a reforms that was performed in 2005, 2006. That was why it changed from NEPA to Power Holdings. So people don't know why we're calling NEPA before it changed to Power Holdings all of a sudden. There was a reforms in 2005, 2006. And that reforms was such that our electricity was going to be privatized or deregulated. And they were able to privatize the generation and privatize distribution. So guys, generation is more like the big turbines that create the electricity. Transmission are those long cables, those, they call it NEPA pole, NEPA wires. And when you're traveling on the highway, you see those wires. That's transportation. You see very big transformers. That is transmission. Now, distribution is previously where you go and pay your NEPA bill back then, before we started having the metering. So in your area, you see one substation. That is your distribution. They are the ones in charge of getting the electricity to your homes. So generation and distribution have been privatized, except for Transmission Company of Nigeria. So now back to where we are as a nation, 13,500, that is installed capacity, but actually, when you put in what's called efficiency, that goes down to about 7,000 to 8,000. That is the max that it can actually generate. What they put on the nameplate is different from what it can actually do. Now, what is the capacity of our generation and what is capacity of our transmission? Generation is maybe 5,000 to 6,000. Transmission 5,000, 6,000. Then distribution itself is like 4,000 to 4,005. What will 4,500 megawatts do for us? So it was streamlined, and they said, hey, the problems we are having is in generation, is in transmission and distribution. That is where we were. Where are we currently today? We'll talk about the Buhari administration joint agreement with Siemens of Germany. That was signed in 2018 or 2019. And it is called the Presidential Power Initiative. In this plan is very simple. By 2025, you see that 4,500, that is what is being distributed averagely across Nigeria. The Buhari administration's plan is to take that to 25,000 megawatts in 2025. That is it basically. So it says in 2023, the 4,500 to 5,000 will become 7,000 megawatts. Then in 2024, it's going to become 11,000 megawatts. And then in 2025, it's going to be 25,000 megawatts. It's going to be 25,000 megawatts. So that is where the main focus is. Aside that, there are a whole lot of problems. I talked about the agreements when we started this program. I will talk about sabotage. I will also talk about we not paying our NEPA bills, in quotes. We not paying our NEPA bills. Do you know that it's only 60% of Nigerians that pay their NEPA bills? Even included, we even talk about estimated billing also, but even with including estimated billing, including using your meters, only 60% of us pay our bills, NEPA bills. Even though only 60% of Nigerians have access to electricity. And generators, the power that generator generates or gives is about, what's it called? It's about 48-49% of total electricity we have in Nigeria. So you see that there are a bunch of problems. Now, if we don't pay NEPA bill, how will the distribution companies pay the transmission company of Nigeria using the NBET, Nigeria Bulk Electricity Trading Company? Those are people that buy the electricity in bulk from the GENCOs. So now, if you don't pay your NEPA bill, DISCOs can only pay 20% of their bills to the so DISCOs can only pay 20% of what they are owing to the GENCOs. Now GENCOs don't have enough money because it's like, oh, we are making this electricity, but we are not getting paid for it. Now, the bigger issue, the gas companies, the people that provide gas, because in Nigeria's electricity, almost 80% of our electricity is generated from gas-driven turbines. So guys, imagine a long shaft, long pipe, for example. Then you now have like veins, sharp veins around it. When you have those sharp veins, they now spin. It turns that mechanical energy to electricity, mechanical energy to electricity by spinning. But what will make it spin is gas that comes in. Then we'll talk about Kanji Dam. That one is hydro. What will make the turbine spin from mechanical energy to electrical energy is the water. Like that dam, you have that tall wall, and then it conserves that water, and that little water has a force that will move that turbine. Then it's now going to these high-end generators, which will now create the electricity, and you now begin to transmit it. It will go to the grid, the national grid. So the Nigerian bulk electricity trading company will now buy it under TSN. They will now start transmitting it everywhere. Then it will now get to your NEPA office that you see in your area. That's our NEPA office. Then they will now distribute it across. Then we will not pay our NEPA bill. Then how do you want the business to grow? We don't pay our NEPA bills. That is the harsh reality. That's part of it. Now, I talk about gas. The gas, even though Nigeria sits on, we have one of the highest reserves, or if not the highest reserves of gas in Africa, and I think top 5 or top 7 in the world, about 200, maybe 204 trillion cubic feet of gas. I repeat again, over 200 trillion cubic feet of gas. That's what we have in reserve alone that we have discovered or explored. We have a lot of gas, but the gas that they are using for our turbine is the gas that comes alongside crude oil. We'll talk about oil and gas next week, guys. We'll talk about it next week, because when you take crude oil from the ground, it's gas that comes out first. So it's that particular gas that they now begin to process in gas processing plant, that those processing plant companies process, then they will now sell or send. And I want Yetunde to speak on the agreements, because in the agreement, you send gas to generating companies. So the generating companies don't receive gas. So there's one in Calabar. That one, they were paying $10 million monthly. I send you gas or I don't send you gas. You pay my $10 million monthly. So Yetunde, I want you briefly, in about 2-3 minutes, just speak on the agreements. Once we talk on the agreements, the draconian agreements that were signed, so that people understand what these things are, then we can talk about Ashwaju's promises, because we have talked about what's happened, what is currently happening, and where we are going. So once you say that, then I want Barrister Bisiru to chime in one thing before we begin to go in depth. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Bongoli. Let me just hold this. Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us. So the agreement that Bongoli was referring to, if you've been following the power situation in Nigeria or any news about it, recently, I believe it was in September, August, this summer, around August, September, there was a situation in the Congress in Nigeria. They were auditing one of the power generating companies. They were questioning, why is Nigeria paying 33 million daily on generation, whether we use it or we don't. The problem is, this wasn't something that was signed under Buhari's administration, because there was this misinformation thinking it was Buhari that signed it. This wasn't signed under Buhari's administration. Of course, Nigeria, as usual, we always go into something that we know we cannot follow through. Previous administrations have entered into certain agreements, not just in power, even when it comes to the case of ASU, for example. They enter into something knowing fully well they will not be able to follow through. The only difference this time is you're not dealing with ASU, that are your employees that you can kick around. You're dealing with a private organization. Our agreement with them was they should generate certain number of certain megawatts of electricity. Whether we transmit it or not, that is not on them. Their own is to generate. The issue is we are questioning that now, but it's really not their fault. We entered into an agreement. The only thing we can ask for is to renegotiate if they are willing to renegotiate with us. But they still make their money. The difference between that agreement and the agreement that the Buhari administration signed, which is really one of the reasons why this administration also have stepped on so many toes, because this administration, current administration, has decided to do a lot of their dealings through government-to-government initiatives, rather than using third party where money is lost and you can't really hold people accountable for it. And one of that is the PPP, the Presidential Power Initiatives project, that thank God for Angela Merkel of Germany. It was under her that Nigeria signed a memorandum of understanding with Siemens Germany, to help us with our electricity problem. Now, I know one of the presidential candidates traveled to Egypt. The problem is, you travel to Egypt, it was Siemens that did Egypt's electricity for them. So why travel to the people that don't know it instead of traveling to the people that actually did that work? So, and that is where, it makes sense that the Buhari administration actually went directly to these people, and they are working on it. As a matter of fact, just in October, delay, of course, there was delay because this was signed in 2018, 2019. There was delay because nobody anticipated that we will have COVID-19, which was a global situation. We all know about the logistics problem that came with that. So, but Siemens, as of October, a lot of the transformers are now coming into Nigeria. So they are in phase 1 now, and their phase 1 will involve transmission too. They need to help us with our transmission networks. We don't have enough. That is something that we also need to provide for, which this agreement also covers it, but maybe not quite enough, where the administration of Asiwaju, God willing, will build on. So when he says, I will build on Buhari's legacy, people don't even think about the fact that there are so many positives also with this administration that should be built upon, and the challenges will be reworked for more efficiency. So yes, we have a lot of draconian agreements that we've signed, besides power in everything, even in our infrastructure. But you also have to keep in mind, we don't have choice too sometimes but to sign this because of our credit rating in the world. And that is why it's also not good to demarket your home country, because for every noise you make out of proportion, it's also demarketing you, it's affecting everything, including your credit rating, because they're thinking about the stability of your country. So when Nigeria's credit rating is supposed to be a B or a A-, they will give us a C, because they believe that Southeast is screaming to go to war with the North. North is screaming to go to war with the South. So there's instability and all this stuff. It affects all these things. People don't realize everything. They don't realize it. And that's why I'm grateful for that the consular general person in Nigeria, in Lagos, Stephen, actually corrected one of our media person that, there are negatives, but there are more positives, and there are investors willing to come into Nigeria to actually invest. So we just need to get this electricity.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, Barrister Bisiri, quick one. What is your take on?
So thank you so much. I'm not an expert in the electric part of it, but I am more in tune with the grassroots and rural people in Ogun State, and I feel their pain in terms of access to power in rural areas. And I see that the manifesto of Asiwaju identified that. It's just that it has not actually, it did not mention the solution per se, other than how it intends to involve the universities and polytechnics into research and also bring international finance.
We'll get into that.
So because it's a short time, we may not cover everything. So that's why I'm just saying that, in my own opinion, I believe that there is another best way to go about it, which is biofuel with bioenergy, in the sense that most of these rural areas, they produce a lot of waste, agricultural waste, that can be converted into biofuel. And when you convert that into biofuel, you can I've researched some German companies that create all these bioenergy electricity generating machines that we can invest into for rural areas. And once they generate, we can tap them into the national grid or local grid and turn it into something that once the people use it, maybe they use it to manage their storage of their goods, and all these other things that they want to do, they can sell it back to the government, and we can still generate money out of it. So I think it's good to identify it, but I also think that it will be necessary to provide some form of short-term solution that will encourage the people to see where the administration is going, and then we can now bring in tailored, researched solution from polytechnics and university.
Quickly to buttress that point, actually, if there's one state in Nigeria that is even doing anything that might actually eventually lead to that, it will be Lagos State. Because when it comes to waste management and the climate change and with the things that have to do with the environment, Lagos State is actually pioneering a lot of things, and they're exploring things like that. So I would not be surprised if that is something that they are looking, because they have departments that specifically look into all this renewable energy and all this stuff, because of course their aim of a smart city. So yeah.
Thank you very much. So now, with that being said, let us now talk about what Asiwaju is proposing to do in his manifesto. And the first one is the generation and transmission targets. The generation and transmission target still remains the same with the presidential power initiative by the current Buhari administration, which is 7,000 megawatts by the end of, by June 2023. And I think by the end of 2024, 11,000 megawatts. And then by the end of 2025, it should be 25,000 megawatts. So we throw the word where megawatts everywhere. Guys, if you go and look at your bulb, you say, I want to buy 30 watts bulb, 60 watt bulb. Now, multiply that by 1,000. That will give you kilowatts. Multiply that by another 1,000. That will give you megawatts. So you see that bulb there, multiply it by 1 million. That will give you just 1 megawatt. Or whatever megawatt it is. And then I multiply that by 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000, 10,000. And that is the full electricity. So because why I'm explaining this is because we are still going to talk, we are going to get into eliminate estimated billing. Nigeria pays one of the lowest amounts of, when it comes to electricity, in kilowatts per hour. When you convert it to dollars, we are paying less than 10 cents per kilowatt hour. So I'm just trying to explain to you guys how to calculate your electricity so that you don't say, oh, they did this, they did that to me. How much is all your appliances? What is their rating? How much electricity went through them in an hour? And how many hours did you use? Multiply that number by if you are in premium A, premium B, premium C in Nigeria, because it has been broken down, the discos has been broken down. So that's why some people in Nigeria, they say they are having plenty of electricity because they are paying more, premium price. Some people in Nigeria are paying 43. Some people in Nigeria are paying almost 90. So the people that are paying almost 90 get more electricity. Now, Asiwaju says is going to eliminate estimated billings. You're going to eliminate estimated billings. Now, if I ask a question, Yesterday is rolling. Okay, she's back. Okay. Now, if I ask a question to people watching us now, for example, what do you think estimated billing is? To the 16 people, 18 people watching us today. Do you really understand what the estimated billing is? Barrister, let me ask you, what do you understand by estimated billing?
I don't know. So I won't even give it a shot.
What do you understand by estimated billing?
Well, estimated billing in the case of electricity in Nigeria, what they do is, at least from their explanation to my mom, because she's had to ask them before, was that so they go to a particular area, particular house, they estimate based on average number of appliances that you have in those homes, average kilowatts of electricity that those appliances use, and then they use that to say, okay, based on how many days, whether you use it or not. They are not thinking of whether you use it or not. They use that those appliances, the number of units that you have in those houses, based on your area, or not like legit stuff, they average it to give you your bill. So that's why that somebody that even live in a place like Bongoli said, that eyebrow places and all that, they have electricity, of course they are paying. That you live in somewhere that is not even that tush, they will bring your bill and you're like, what did I even use? They are giving me 50,000. It's because they are basing it on average of your area, based on what their own estimation is on the number of appliances, what the units that are available and all that.
Now let me switch it up a little bit.
Explanation, but you can explain it.
That is the explanation, yes. But guys, remember, the wires are coming to, like, from you have what you call feeders. The feeders coming to the disco substations, those ones that you see in your area. When those ones send the electricity to your community, they use transformers. They have a reading that we take that reading, that energy reading, that this is the amount of electricity we sold to these people, or this amount of electricity that they used.
Yes.
So now, if you have meters, electricity meters that is reading all of bill, it will say, oh, it was only, let's say, 1,000 kilowatts hour of electricity that we sold to these people. But then the people actually consume 700 or 800. So where is the remaining 200? Somebody has to pay. And so they will have to divide it. Now, like, one way of dividing it is coming to your home and say, okay, they will gauge it. How much have we been giving you people in billing before? We'll give you the same bill. Because money has to be complete. Somebody has to pay for the leakages. Because, guys, look at it. It's just like electricity is like pipe, water inside pipe. There are leakages. Just look at electricity like that. The wires are the pipes. The electricity going in at the water is the water.
And the people stealing from
so I don't want to go in there to volts and amperes, pressure and flow rates. So they are the same thing, the same concept. So it has to balance. So Ashiwaju is saying, you know what? That's national metering for all homes. I will continue that. I'll make sure I see it to the end. Now, this is it here. These are very realistic plans.
Yes.
Like, this is what this government is doing. So when, like, Barrister Bisiriyu said, or is it Barrister Bisiriyu or Yetunde said, okay, I think it's Yetunde, that, hey, I am continuing from where the current administration stopped. I'm going to continue. This is part of the continuation that he's talking about. It's not talking, it's not, oh, the negative, we all think negative. And that was why on Arise TV recently, the US rep to Nigeria actually corrected them. I felt sad. He was teaching them how to be patriotic, how to stop the market in Nigeria, saying, hey, we always talk about negative. Why don't you talk about positives in the long run? So in this particular case, this is a positive. Let's focus on the national metering program and how the national metering program is going to ensure that everyone has electricity that is recorded and documented, and it eliminates estimated billing. So now they will now have to focus on where are the leakages coming from, and also illegal wiretapping, illegal connections. We know ourselves, illegal connections. You wanted to say something?
No, I wanted to say that, it's funny. So my house in my parents' house in Nigeria, they just got their meters. By the way, meter is available. People, if you need meter, go and get your meter. You pay directly to a bank. So if don't give everybody your money. You pay directly to a bank. They will send you email when your meters are ready. They will send you email to let you know when they will be coming to do the connection and all of that. well, but it's still not a perfect system because there are still rooms for those people doing connection to be asking you for extra stuff. But it's still better than that. But it's funny because this is not just when you're talking about illegal connection and all that. It's not just a Nigeria situation. I think it's a African problem because they have a major problem of that too in South Africa. By the way, when I went there, that was another issue. But people have to, I understand the whole issue of saying, oh, well, we don't see anything positive that it's going on. It's easy to see negative everywhere, but we all need to remember that it's easy to destroy something. It's not easy to build back. This is building back. And, you know, to use the word of Ashiwaju when he said, you will suffer, but then you will enjoy. We have to be willing as Nigerians, as patriotic Nigerians, to go through the hardship because it's not going to be easy. But talking about or constantly saying negative, and not even once seeing something that is positive or bringing up ideas that will be beneficial, it's not doing anybody any good. It's not doing me any good. It's not doing you any good. Because if you think that Nigeria is the only country in the whole world that have a lot of enormous challenges, then you are mistaken. I can't go to the store today and not be looking over my shoulder that I hope nobody is carrying a gun to kill me. That is the reality. But you don't see me or any American going out there and be saying, our government has this. We fight for what we want, but at the same time, we are constructive with it. So this powered thing is one of the initiatives that is ongoing that we just need it. We need it to be fully implemented and everybody can be happy. Of course, Steph Monique asked the question if it's illegal to do illegal connection. There's a reason they call it illegal. They already put illegal connection. Illegal connection. I am telling me that, sister, stop. Anybody do it? You know what? And again, it's affecting you. That's another reason why your estimated bill will be high too. Because when those people went to go and connect, the voltage, the amount of electricity they will be taking is counting in your own distance, but they don't have meter. So you that you have meter will now be the one paying their bill for them.
Not for illegal connection, it's called tapping. You got the word. You tapping, tapping, they call it tapping. Yeah, you tapping. Tapping is not illegal connection. You see, they will fight you. Like we in Nigeria, we will fight you. Even if you want to put so this, you know, situations like this are the reasons why some people be sabotaging electric meter. Because remember, even with the electric meter and even with the tapping, only 60% of Nigerians are paying their bills, the electricity bills. The remaining 40% are not paying. And if they don't pay, how will these people pay their customers? No, vendors.
Their own vendors and their employees.
And their vendors, and then it goes and goes. And do you know who gets all of this stress the most? Is the federal government. Because federal government will be bailing them 1 trillion today, 1.2 trillion tomorrow. Now they are even owing 850 billion, Genco and Disco. Who is going to pay?
I think that's another reason why
it should
be
completely
deregulated. Yes, it should be deregulated. Let some of the
that
states
is honestly,
it's part of the Ashiwaju plan. That's part of the Ashiwaju plan.
The problem is that it wasn't done right to begin with. They didn't do the process when they decided to deregulate it and privatize it. PDP administration, because they like to just act like they didn't do anything wrong. They didn't do it right to begin with. They messed it up, and it's something that even other Africans learned from. Like South Africa, for example, they are trying to deregulate too and go the same way of Nigeria. And that was one of the questions I asked their main person, by the way, that how will you guide against the situation that happened in Nigeria from happening here? And that was one of the things they've known from Nigeria's mistakes. They've looked at it. They know the mistakes we made when we were doing that. And they are trying their best to not go that route because they're having issues also, like all this issue we are talking about, tapping and everything is a big problem for them too. That's why in South Africa, average hours of day that they have electricity really is 8 to 12 hours, not 24 hours. So
it's been called because South Africa don't have 24 hours electricity anymore.
They don't have 24 hours electricity. They share.
All right, let's move on. Because of time, they do shedding. Let's move on. When I say shedding, guys, shedding means maybe you have 5,000 megawatts, but these 5,000 megawatts, you want to supply 6,000 people that need 6,000. So there's a way you have to cut it. So it's called shedding. So you shed. You're not going to get at this time. These people have this at this time. And that is how they go about it. Now, moving forward, quickly, support for domestic manufacturing of electricity meters. We can't talk enough about this. This is all about manufacturing. If you manufacture here, the jobs will be here. So what is going to happen is Ashwaji is going to create funding for the importation of semi-finished goods and also raw materials, and also give the right tax incentives and give all the right remunerations for people to come and invest. And local manufacturing promotes, improve on them, encourage them, and motivate them. Thirdly, renewable energy plan. Now you see that one. I have reservations about that one. Even though we're talking about the Ashwaju manifesto, I have reservations about renewable energy plan. So I may not want to talk about it. Madam Yetunde, if you can talk about it for like a minute or two, because I have reservations about it.
What are your reservations?
But what are your
reservations?
I think
always been against renewable energy.
I've
always been against renewable energy in Nigeria because we are not ready for it in Nigeria.
Okay.
So why? What is the?
Let Mama talk. I don't want to talk about it. So I don't sound.
Okay, it's like this.
Let her talk about it. I don't want to talk about
I think Bongoli and I have discussed this before, and this goes that it's not just Nigeria that have reservation. The whole of Mother Africa have reservation when it comes to going renewable, and it's understandable because yes, the Western nation, the United States, they want us to move from fossil and go into more clean energy. The problem is that when it comes to Africa, we need industrialization and we need it like yesterday. What this renewable energy, this clean energy can offer us is still something that is, first off, is not like perfect technology yet. And we don't even have the money for this. What we have right now is the natural resources that God has given us, which is in the soil, whether in the form of coal, whether in the form of gas, we have those. We can move to gas, and that is where we are right now. We are trying to transition. As a matter of fact, since the time of President Obasanjo, we're trying to move to gas, to do more gas. Gas is still cleaner than coal, but telling us, bulldozing us is what Africa as a whole doesn't want, like trying to shove it, because the thing is, when you're telling Africa that contributes 2% to less than 4% to global warming, and you're telling us to do this, railroad us, World Bank, IMF, all these people trying to railroad us into doing this, when your home people are even saying, no, still go do West Virginia, they still want to continue with coal. Texas, they still want to continue to frack for oil. Europe now, because Ukraine is not giving them oil, they decide to go fire up the plants with coal. So yes, you can't be doing this. So it's the hypocrisy that is making a lot of Africans be against this. Not that we don't know that we want to, but right now we can do it to add to what we are generating, whether through solar, wind, and all this stuff. But to completely stop using fossil, it's not something that we will be able to be realistic, achieve in the next 10 years. Sincerely, in my opinion, that's my own opinion. But we are still, not that we will not have.
This is what Ashwaju said. So go ahead.
So can I contribute briefly? So based on what I see here, I think Asiwaju's plan does not encompass the old gamut
Mhm.
of
Anyway, you're about to say
renewable
what I'm
energy.
about to
Yes.
say. So go
I
ahead.
think
That's what I wanted to say.
so. Yeah, so it started with the general renewable energy plan, and said something about carbon neutrality, which would have been the other part of renewable energy, but focuses more on the solar energy plan, which is our natural resource. Or in Nigeria, you know, we have so much more sun than everywhere else, and if we can find a way to take more of that, convert that, especially in the rural area. You see, the rural area, like we said, the cities don't pay electricity bills. What do we expect of the rural people who find it hard to even use? They don't really
Yes.
use energy that much. You understand? What the biggest thing they need energy for is preservation of
Yes.
their products
Yes.
and charging their phones. The major problem I have when I deal with them is that they can't charge their phones. You know, they want to communicate, they want to reach out to the Yaloja, they want to talk to this
But
person and all that,
they will
but
need
they don't
more
have power to
electricity
charge
than
their
that
phones.
now.
So
In the coming, they can't continue because
Agriculture, right?
with Ashiwaju's plan or any
yes,
plan, anybody coming into government, they need to have plan for the rural development, which includes healthcare facilities for these people. And there's no way they will not need electricity to power their healthcare centers. Exactly. So more
more
electricity will be
electricity.
needed.
So if there is a plan in the renewable one for bioenergy, with taking biofuels from waste, farm product waste, and solar energy
Yes.
combined together, you don't need a lot of this. You can use those two, put that together, because there will always be waste. They have these
Actually,
plans and they do it.
lawyer, see, in the north, actually, in Kaduna, I think in Kaduna and some part of Kano, they're already using solar energy in some of the rural areas.
Well, now,
Which hospital was that recently that is it Zulum in, I think it's Borno, either Borno or Zamfara. They just opened another hospital there, is powered strictly solar energy.
so now, this is the problem I
Solar
have.
energy.
Because you talked about rural electrification, which Ashiwaju also talked about here. And I'm glad I were able to touch on it. So rural electrification, because of all of the developments, growth and development that is envisaged to come into the rural areas, there are plans for that. Because remember, only 60% of Nigerians have access to electricity, meaning transmission lines, only 60%.
Is it more up to 60?
60%. So by my calculation, our federal roads is 35,000 kilometers.
Yes.
So about 60% means 20,000 kilometers. So I'm always using what do they call it? I'm always using federal roads brain estimation to calculate the transmission lines.
Nice.
So if it's 60, so yeah, so that's what I use. So it is 20,000 kilometers that's electrified. Federal roads is 36,152 or so. So I just say 35,000 anyway. Round figure, I just say 35,000. It makes it easy for me. 35,000. So the remaining 40,000. So the remaining 40,000 is the rural electrification. Yes. Now remember, once you begin to do that, you have to have Genco there, a generating substation.
Yes.
So that's another huge investment on its own. So all of those developments have to come hand in hand. But now let me throw this as a...
So quickly before you say, so what you are saying is that the infrastructural plan of roads goes along with the building of transmission lines, because if we need roads, as you are saying, you calculate based on the road and highways. So if they are able to project more roads into the rural area, so more transmission too will follow.
They all come hand in hand. They have to come hand in hand. Like all of this, we've talked about agriculture, we've talked about the economy, we've talked about security, we've talked about now today we're talking about power. All of these things go hand in hand, because you cannot have, how will, like rightfully said, how will you power some kind of equipment in your healthcare industry that must not go down? There's some that must not go down. You
Yeah,
need to power
exactly.
electricity.
Even
And then
for
we're talking
manufacturing.
about food storage.
Yes.
We're talking about food
Food
storage, for
storage,
example.
yes.
You need electricity. You cannot be running diesel all the time.
Exactly.
But now I want you guys to remember why one of the strong reasons why I have these reservations about renewable energy for electricity in Nigeria. In Asiwaju's document, Asiwaju says we'll look at the options. Asiwaju didn't commit fully. If you read it, he said we'll look at the options, we'll work together with state and local governments. So I give Asiwaju's manifesto a pass on that. But if I sit down in the round table, I'll say, we talk about solar energy. Do you know that solar energy costs 5 times more in Africa compared to Europe?
Yes, that's true.
5 times more.
True.
So
is it 5 times more to build, or 5 times more
to build,
to buy infrastructure?
So now,
okay,
I am going to go and borrow tens of billions of dollars to get a certain technology that is not fully acceptable or fully like foolproof. Because if it were foolproof, in all the world, we'll have stopped using fossil fuel and all other things, and we'll just be using strictly solar. But they even have it cheaper. Then in Africa, it's 5 times more, even though we have more energy source from the sun. Like in that, for example, you think that because we have the Sahara Desert, we are by the equator in the Sahel region, that, oh yes, we should have bunch of solar panels there. But that is not the reality. They've tried it. It costs 5 times more.
So my own question is this, that, you know, sometimes, for instance, it costs a lot of money to establish an oil rig. But you look at how long, because I think one fracking station is meant to be there for 40 years. So they calculate how much they make per barrel every day, and then they spread it along that 40 years. So what if there is an idea, or there is a plan using Nigerian engineers and all that, for them to create a different type of solar panel that can last long, although expensive at the initial stage, but can last for 50 years, and its maintenance is limited. Maybe you do maintenance every 10 years or something, and it can produce this, and you can spread all that initial investment across over 40, 50 years. And it will not be affected by
I think you are ready.
Go ahead.
You have, sir, just before you talk, please. Sir, I think you have answered that question already. You answered the question. That was one of the first things you said in this live. You said polytechnics and universities. So that is where the research has to come from.
Exactly.
Polytechnics and universities. And I don't think we've not spoken on education. I know then,
No, we've not talked on education. We've not talked on education.
I know, but you'll be able to break all those research, funding, why we have issue with funding, all those type of things. Private investors, because private investors are the ones that will bring the funding. People think it has to be government. No. How many things does the government want to do? Private will come with, this is our fund, this is what we want you guys to give to us. How can you solve local problems? Because the issue is that even when they bring this funding, it is how to fund international problems. I'm looking at the time. Okay, I'm almost running out of time. How to fund international problems, but not the local problems. So now, I think we have spoken enough about that. Asiwaju is saying, we'll look at those options. We'll have a healthy mix, but then we are going to focus more. I'll talk about it when we get to power sector governance reform. Power sector governance reform, that talks about looking at those draconian policies that we signed to unentangle it. Because a lot of people were saying, Fashola, what does Fashola know about power, that they put him as Minister for Power and War and all those things? Fashola went there to use his
Management.
barista-like.
Yeah.
You see why you are important? Why people like you are important? Barista-like type of expertise.
Barista and a good manager. Is
A
a
good
good
manager
manager.
to
So,
unentangle those things that were signed. Because honestly, I'm speaking with you here. It's just the one that we see in the media that we know of. There are some agreements that were signed that we don't know anything about. But I know that if some gas stations don't give generating companies gas, or they give them gas, they must pay tens of millions of dollars monthly. They must pay it. I give you gas, I don't give you gas. That's the agreement. What kind of agreement is that? Who is going to end up paying? It is either the government ends up paying, or it comes down to we, the end consumers. Those kind of policies, those kind of reforms. So they want to unentangle it, keep on unentangling, because I think there was one that was signed recently that they are fighting about, power purchase agreement, PPA. There's one PPA that was signed recently. I have not really done so much research on it, but it's causing a lot of friction amongst the GenCos, generating companies, and the generating companies and the government. Because government is Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, NBET, and because that part of the electricity is not privatized yet.
yes.
So last but not least, so that people can ask questions quickly, Nigeria First Power Policy. So basically, Ashwaju is big on using gas to provide electricity. And he's saying, I want to have enough processed gas to spin our turbines for electricity first. And then the rest, we can begin to sell. Now remember, Ashwaju is not talking about associated gas. Associated gas is when we drill our crude oil. The gas that will come with it. Or when they take it to go and do processing, is gas that first come out first. And that's the one that they use for us. They don't use you use the word fracking, for example, that they frack in America, where you go down and go and drill for the gas itself. I think we have less of that in Nigeria. That's even if we have itself. So Ashwaju is saying, I want to focus more on gas, using gas for electricity, and then whatever is left, we'll begin to sell.
Yeah, because we have a lot of gas. We have 37 billion barrels of gas.
It is
Wow.
200 and it's over 200 trillion cubic foot of gas.
Yeah, that's
Over
209.5.
Every day, so with the palm oil in Ezibashi Abi Gombe,
And
they are still finding, they are still exploring Nigeria.
and
They are still
gas
exploring
is
Nigeria.
gas is cleaner than coal. I mean, cleaner than fossil. So at least we are making progress when it comes to going.
We'll talk about all
fossil.
of that. We'll talk about all of that next week. So guys, please throw your questions on power. Your questions could be based on what Ashwaju's plan would fix. It could be questions on why is NEPA, why is our electricity like this or like that. So guys, we have 5 minutes to answer all of these 3 questions. Please begin to throw your questions because of time. Question on electricity, how Ashwaju be able to solve, Ashwaju's plans be able to solve the problem, or what the Power Initiative, PPI, is about. We are waiting. They were asking questions now while we were speaking the other time.
They were chipping
they were
in.
just chipping in one or two comments.
Daisy said, in Nigeria, we need dams, not solar panel. You're right. We need everything.
We need everything.
So,
yeah, we need everything.
I
think it's an incorporation.
Yeah, but the thing is that dams, would I say dams are kind of like outdated?
They're outdated. But for Nigeria, it's not outdated. We need everything right now.
I think if you still have water,
our beggar can't be choosers too. So let's just.
And I think,
and I believe that we are not ready
nuclear
for
no.
nuclear. Yeah, and the reason is our maintenance culture. it's not the people per se, it's the maintenance culture that, you know, they don't follow certain maintenance
Exactly.
schedule to, you know, you will find some people in the wrong places saying that it's not, they don't need to do that. Oh no, don't worry about it. For instance, you see, the culture is so embedded in the psychology of Nigerians that even mechanic, you carry new car, go to mechanic, and it will open the bonnet. The thing that the manufacturer put in it, a plastic here to hold this, they'll say, you don't need this one. You come out, you throw it away. You don't need this one. Before you know, you just see a skeletal structure of your bonnet, of your engine in there. And is that maintenance? That's the person repairing something that keeps your life going, you know, that can kill you. And the person is taking out all the safety features in it, you know, saying that you don't need this, they don't need that. They put it, they don't need it. You see, so what I think the mentality of maintenance has to be redefined in Nigerian people, and it has to come from top to bottom. It cannot go from bottom to top. And the reason is because you can use regulatory enforcement to make this happen from top to bottom, rather than from bottom to top, you know. So
I know they are exploring nuclear, as much as it would have been so nice to have that if we could, because it's the cleanest form of energy. It doesn't emit anything. But like you said, Nigeria, no.
Let me ask.
No.
Let me even throw this here. You people are carrying us to somewhere where we don't know. Now with nuclear, some people in their manifesto are promising nuclear. Don't mind them. Some people are promising you nuclear. Don't mind them. Secondly, how will they dispose of the hazardous chemicals that comes from the nuclear plants? Because those hazardous chemicals have to be reprocessed. You process it like hazardous material. They have their own treatment plants, and then whatever is left there, then you can send the water off, and then whatever you take out of it, you can recycle it or recover it or burn it or something. So when they say all of these things, when they tell you all of this sweet, give you all this sweet talk, ask them, how will you process the waste?
You see, even the cooling system of the nuclear radiators themselves is not.
It is.
It could be 5,000 megawatts. You can need 5,000 megawatts of those fans. Like maybe they use cooling fans or something. It depends on whatever they are using.
And all that, and some of them, and there are some that they use water. They pass water through the casing.
That's jacketed piping. Jacketed. You are entering my range. You are entering my range.
You're entering my range. No, I think we'll stick with the natural gas, hydropower, our solar, wind, and all that.
And that is why Asiwaju is the leader to go for, because it is practical in his manifesto. Like, he understands this thing. He understands how Nigerians work. He knows that solar is easier to manage, though expensive, but easier to manage, and with that you can cultivate a mentality of maintenance gradually.
Of course, they understand it. Lagos was the first state in Nigeria that started using solar to power a lot of public stuff too, like the street lights and all that on the highways. They were using solar. When Fashola started, they started using solar. So Lagos is used to solar. So that's why it's no strange thing for him. He probably understands that way better when it comes
to.
There was
one question that somebody asked. There's one question that somebody asked. I don't even have the answer. Even though I say I'm an expert in electricity. How much megawatts do Nigeria really need?
Do we really need? Well,
like we need to, because for example now, because of our electricity issue. Hold on. Let me say it this way. For the electricity issues that we are having, we lose at least $35 billion annually because of our electricity issues that we have. So what do we need not to have that $35 billion loss in the economy? What do we need? What do we need so that people don't buy diesel or gasoline inside their generator to power their house. What do we need so that we don't use almost 50% of, because generators provide almost 50% of the electricity we use in Nigeria. So I've added like 3 for you, Yetunde. It's for you.
Well,
This
no,
question is for you.
I'm actually, I have to go and look for where I read it. It's one of the leadership newspaper. One time I read that Nigeria currently, based on current consumption, we need 30,000 megawatts of electricity generation to meet current demand of electricity by consumers. That is coming from the Association of Nigerian Electricity Distributors and the DISCOs. So they said currently.
I disagree.
Currently.
I disagree. I disagree.
Why?
I disagree because they do not factory manufacturing companies. Because manufacturing companies will come.
No. They are saying now. They are saying now. Right off to as of when did they send? When was this? As of this was 4 months ago. So current usage, not when. So I'm sure now by the time we now expand and you now have more manufacturing and all that, we'll be talking about upwards of 50,000-60,000 megawatts.
Buhari, according to his PPI, he said, and I quote, that it is 25,000 megawatts in 2025. So let's keep going.
I mean, that's just based on if we stick with just the Siemens project. By the time we bring in all this independent power people to IPP people, because we'll have they are breaking it down enough that we can have all this IPP also. By the time we bring those people into to generate power, then we have this renewable energy also adding to it. We will be pushing 30, 35. We'll get there. It's not going to be overnight, but at least give us 12 hours. But even that is not enough. If you give regular household 12 hours.
Magodo is 24 hours. Magodo is 24 hours of life.
One thing is this, so when we have electricity, enough electricity, one thing they can do at least is for us to continue to make money as a nation, our businesses have to have electricity. So if you are taking electricity from residential, that's fine. They are not producing. But our manufacturing plants must always have electricity. Those are essential. They have to have electricity. Businesses have to have.
My own is the rural area.
Yeah, of course. That's what I use now. How much electricity do they use?
We need to
give it to them now. Somebody is advocating for rural area here. I've seen somebody advocating for rural area. You give it to them. You say how much is it? They are not asking for too much.
No, I said for too much now. It's just for their charge phone and to watch their 15-inch, 20-inch TV. They are not asking for too much. Even though those lawyers listen though, that their 20-inch TV now is those old TV that is taking electricity. My TV here, 65 inch, is only $15 is costing me. So per year. So
we have to start from somewhere. But the reason is this. The reason why I'm talking about the rural area is just because I think we need more youth.
We do.
In there.
We do. Yes.
They will not go there without power.
They won't.
They will not. They will not move back without power. They are used to their phones now. Why do
you think healthcare workers in America don't want to go to rural areas too? Because first off, your phone, there's no signal. Internet is not really, a lot of our rural areas in America don't have internet. So they don't have broadband. They don't have internet. People don't understand all of that. I don't want to leak our American secret. Sorry, America.
Everybody thinks that it's Nigeria that our rural areas, our villages don't have network. They don't know in America, to rural areas, there's no network.
But in rural areas in America, the roads.
The roads are good. They have good roads. Yes.
You go in there.
We are talking about electricity here, please. We are talking about electricity here, please.
And there's electricity
we are talking about electricity.
But
I use it for my calculation. I use it for my calculation. Kilometers of work has been done by the transmission. Don't mix it up. No,
we are mixing it up. We need both. They need both. They need roads that will bring the food out for the people to take to eat and to export, and they need power to preserve it, and they need power to encourage more labor to go back in there. So, like you said, I think it's
because 90%,
you know,
90% of our of our food comes from the rural area. 90% of the food that we eat in Nigeria that is local, 90% comes from the villages in quotes. So you are very right. It is very, very important. Guys,
so this is another question. Answer that. I don't know if it's that DA Dimple guy. He said we introduced solar power in virtually all our telecommunication base stations in Nigeria, but we didn't enjoy it because of vandals. How will this issue not affect Nigeria if we go for solar power? That's for you. That's for you, lawyer.
It's a lawyer question. It's human related. It's not technical related.
So the problem with vandalism is that it is viable for sale. So people vandalize things for sale for other kind of profit. If you take away the market for that sale, the vandalism becomes ineffective and there's no value added to it. So the first thing I think is that take away the market. Who buys this thing? If you bring in let me say large scale industrialized solar, you can't take that apart and take it all the way to Alaba and you want to sell it. It's so, it's so bogus, it's government property. Whoever takes government property goes to jail too. There is jail time to that. Then number two is that for all those areas where you have those panels, you can use the electricity in the panel to put in electrified fences around the panel. So the person that is going to come and steal has to first find a way to escape the electricity fence around it that protects it first. And until we take away some form of where these vendors can make profit out of it, there will always be people coming after it. But if you take that away first, and then you put some form of security around it, it becomes too hard to go steal it, and then there's nowhere to sell it, and they'll be destroyed.
Let me counter you.
That is what
Let me counter you. These are not today I noticed that there's a little subtle gas goes amongst everybody. What is going on? I didn't know. I thought power was just going to be, we've been smooth, we've been agreeing. But today there seems to be a little friction amongst us. What's going on?
Because we have all experienced power failure.
Besides that, even the person that we are pitching for always welcome people working for him to disagree with him. In fact, that is what makes him function. And as a leader, you have to be willing to argue something. It shouldn't be, if I'm a leader, I don't want yes men around me. I want people that can challenge whatever I'm saying, and we can argue it out and come to the best conclusion. So yes, let's do it.
So now let me throw a little wrench, because this is the last thing and we move on. We are talking about now manholes on bridges. Is it not some people that are removing it, those manholes in bridges? Because they are saying the market or no market, but they are still doing it till tomorrow. The rail lines, they will put those rail tracks, but some people are still going there to go and remove it. What I'm just saying is, as you are fighting vandalism in solar panel, you'll be fighting vandalism on railroad. You'll be fighting vandalism on the bridges. Those manholes. You see, the other, those ones, I think that it's because there can be a byproduct of that. They can melt it and turn it into something else. So you can take it that way, but by the time it gets to the seller or someone buying it, they would have changed the form of it. So it goes from being a government property to being a raw material. So once it becomes a raw material, you cannot identify it as a stolen property under the law anymore. So and those metals that they steal, the really metal, most of them, they cut it, they have ways to cut it, and it's not, so you cannot identify it as a one real metal anymore. But with solar panel is a combination of components that makes it impossible for you. Is either you dismantle everything completely
and you take maybe chips in it and all that they can add into some other maybe locally made or homemade solar panel. But if the manufacturer having that in mind in the requirement, so in America here, when we do contract requirement for the government, we put what we want in it, the way we want it, how it should be bigger and all that, and you bring in competitions from manufacturers. So if we say that, if we tell our contractors or whoever wants to make it local, we say, look, we want to discourage this thing to be on the regular market. So the kind of chips you are going to put in our solar, we want it to be this function, this way, because of those research from Polytechnic and University. They can tell us that if you have like a high grade these chips in it, it becomes useless for anybody that goes through all that hell to steal it and take it to the market and say, we can't use this one. They can't even put it in the house. You understand? And once you have one or two of that, it becomes useless. It has no value.
Thank you very much. Now I'm going to end it with this. Mr. Maybach, thank you very much. I've always seen your contribution at times on this program, but I want to say this here, maybe you didn't start when the program started. We all agreed that the solar energy and all these other forms of energy may be challenging at this time in Nigeria, but we are just discussing the probabilities, the pros and the cons. And I myself, I advocate against renewable energy for reasons best known to me because of the financial ramifications. That's me, myself. On the other hand, you said Nigeria needs nuclear power. That one, I disagree 110%. We've already broken it down. If we need nuclear power, yes. How do you dispose of the nuclear power waste? You have to build waste treatment facility. In Nigeria at this time, let us be realistic with ourselves in Nigeria at this time. We are a developing nation. They already dispose waste material, hazardous material on the shores of Nigeria. That is another topic entirely that we should not even get. Like, since the 60s and 70s, legally been doing that. The agreement, all the hazardous made in Europe, in Asia, in the Americas, they come to our shore lines and dispose of it. People are already, we have health issues that are related to that. They are saying uranium. You don't like Nigeria. With all due respect. With all due respect, you don't like Nigeria. You are saying uranium.
No, we have uranium. The thing is this, we have uranium, yes, but are you also thinking about the environmental impact of this? Look at what is happening in Ogoniland, for example, now. That is fossil fuel. Look at, we are so irresponsible as a society that we can't even clean that up. Then, even for lithium, if we say we should use, because without lithium, there's no renewable energy. But there are also studies out there about the environmental degradation impact of lithium on the soil, in the environment. So a lot of these things we have to, right now, we need to be realistic. Yes, nuclear will be ideal. Seriously, I would so love nuclear because me, I'm doing my own part to do climate change. But we are not a responsible society. Nigeria, if it's that easy, America will sell us a lot of weapons today. There's a reason they don't even sell us weapons to fight terrorists, because they believe that we might be so irresponsible that these weapons will fall in the hands of terrorists. So we can't imagine what happened in Japan. Imagine it was Nigeria. They are using
Fukushima, right?
Yes, you know, they have nuclear. Look at the fear. Look at all what happened. We cannot, at this point in time, I'm not talking about in 30, 50 years time, we might be matured enough as a society. Let us start with gas and all these other ones. Let us do them well. Let's see how responsible we are to manage it. Then we can now say, you are matured now. You've graduated secondary school. Now you are going to college. Then we can now go that way.
On that note, I like to call it an evening, an afternoon, a morning, and a night. So thank you all very much. Barrister Bisiriyu, Yetunde, ever smart lady. She knows everything. She can talk for anything.
He knows everything.
Can analyze anything. So thank you very much for your time. So next week, I'll be back in Houston, all things being equal. We'll be doing oil and gas.
Yeah.
So now, guys, oil and gas. I'll just say this here. Remember Tom Pulu, when he signed, they said they should give him one contract one time. Nigerians were shouting, complaining, they want to be paying, is it 10 billion naira per year, be 4 billion naira per year, or some amount like that. Complaining, shouting. Now, at the time that they gave him the contract, Nigeria was doing 990 or 980,000 barrels per day. Now, Nigeria is doing 1.4, 1.6 under 3 months. I started guiding the pipelines. But these are conversations that we will have next week. Oil and gas. Which way oil and gas? What are the plans for Nigeria that Ashiwaju is trying to look at? Okay, oil and gas, so this and that, these are the things that we can do. We'll talk about oil. We'll talk about all of the things that can come out of oil and what we can do. We can also talk about gas, processing the gas, what the gas we do for cooking, for Forex, and all of that stuff. But until next week, may God see us all then. Thank you all very much for your time once again. We'll do this next week again. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.